Welcome to the Life You're Made For with me, Dr. Heather Penny. We're going to be having conversations that talk about us spiraling up versus spiraling down, because we all want to be living lives that are about thriving, not just surviving. This is the life you're made for. So let's get going. Hello, Ash. It's so good to see you here today.
It's awesome to see you in real life.
Ash and I got to talk on the phone. This is the first time we're getting to see each other. And we had such a great conversation that I said, hey, will you come on my show and talk about our surprise topic that I got ambushed by? And I'm teasing her about it because, and I'll set the stage a little bit and then I'll pass the ball off to you, Ash, to tell my listeners a little bit of who you are. But Ash asked me to come on her show, and I had this wonderful set of questions around clarity and confidence and courage. Halfway through the conversation, she goes, can we talk about discrimination? And I was like, yeah, of course we can. But I didn't know what I was stepping into. We ended up having such a great conversation around it that I thought, hey, let's come on my show and talk a little bit more about that and how it makes us and not breaks us. And so, Ash, I'll just pass the ball off to you and just tell our listeners a little bit of who you are, what you do, what you're about, and then we'll jump into our conversation together.
Absolutely. Well, I'm Ash Brown, and I'm the host of the Ash Said It Show. I've been doing the show a little over 7 or some odd years. It's kind of been like a passion project of mine, so to speak. So in between that, I've been working with small business owners, managing their social media sites, helping them optimize their websites and things, but also hosting events. So people hire me to be the host to their receptions, their birthday parties, divorce parties. I've done a couple of those.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. Those are big business in Atlanta. Big business. I'm also a wedding officiant. So what I do with my show, with my platform, is just really put out some good burst of energy, good energy, good vibes, positive vibes. And I just keep the show very light, very fun. And I get to have amazing, wonderful people like the wonderful Heather Penny on the show.
Yeah, we had fun. I immediately liked her. We hit it off. I love anyone who's transparent and also just kind of goes for it. And I just felt this immediate ease with you. And I think in a world that wants to keep us divided with anything from gender to discrepancies, I want to say we're not divided. We're one, and we're human beings, and we're choosing to be humane and united and learn from one another and come together on topics. And one of the topics that came up was discrimination, marginalization. And I said, oh yeah, here's what I want to say. Not only does it hurt the individual or the victim, it hurts the whole community. It hurts, everybody hurts, because we're all connected. And so the reason I go after it ruthlessly as a leadership coach is anytime we choose to exclude based on subjective measures of race or gender or just appearances, what we're doing is we are losing some of our best and our brightest, and we're creating a toxic culture that says only certain people have privileges to have a seat at the table. And that becomes a level of dysfunction and toxicity that, frankly, nobody wants to be a part of, and it does not serve our world, our community. So let's jump in. Tell us a little bit about what you've experienced in that and how some of the life lessons you've taken away and really how it's made you the person you are today.
Wow. As we were talking, prior to get on the recording, I told you a little bit about my upbringing. So I was born in New York. I grew up in the Bronx. First 6 years of my life, I only knew everything was the Bronx. Family was there, friends, school, everything is the Bronx. So when my parents said that we were moving to Georgia, it was a shock. I was like, I'm looking on the map. I'm like, that is way far away from New York. That's like not even near the vicinity. So I remember at 6 years old being, really nervous, really anxious, not knowing what to expect. Moved down to Georgia, and it was, well, you're the new Black girl. You're the new little chocolate thing that's in the room with us. Okay. And I was one of 2 Black kids in the class.
Wow.
And first grade teachers. At the time, honestly, probably the first couple of years, it was just confusing because I didn't understand why I was being treated differently. Why was I being pointed out as, the Black kid in the room, the Black kid that's here? And why wasn't I just a kid? In New York, I had tons of friends, Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, every different. We were one huge melting pot, and we were kids. We were 6 years old, and race never came into play at that stage. So coming to Georgia, going into that, I would cry myself to sleep at night because it was just a rough situation for a little baby to go through, you know? And even with the teachers, I had a teacher, she was a terrible person and she would mark my paperwork wrong. Well, most people know up north, the schooling is advanced. It just is for whatever reason. It's always been advanced, probably always will be.
Yeah.
So when I came to Georgia and going through the schoolwork, I was like, this stuff is stuff that I already know. This is stuff that I've already done, but they tried to dumb me down. So it was a very confusing time. And it took me years to really digest and not internalize what was happening. And by the time I was about probably been 9 or 10 or so, our school became a lot more integrated. So there were more Black kids, there were more Hispanic kids, there were more Asian kids coming into the school system to where we were one big melting pot. But initially it was very confusing for a child. And now here I stand 40 years old and I look back and I'm like, that 6-year-old girl, she had no prayer in the world. There was no way that I was going to be able to navigate that situation and understand what was going on. So now, as an adult, those situations taught me so much more about treating people with humility, treating people with respect and dignity, regardless of what their background may be. You know, I've learned so much more from people of different cultures that I've worked with or that I, have gone to school with or whatever the case is, learning about different cultures. That's what makes us all so unique. Everyone has an individual story. And it's what makes things so beautiful. It's like if everyone was the same, life would be boring.
Yeah.
Let's just keep it 100. Life would be so boring. If everyone was the same, it would be boring. No, everyone brings something different to the pot. So as, a 40-year-old single woman in this crazy America of ours, I'm definitely a lot more aware of the, the marginalization that goes on in the workplace, in different districts, in different counties. So as I'm aware of it, I try to do my part in trying to not, have it to be a trend. Be it that, when I had interns, making sure that they understand different aspects of what I was doing and taking them to different events and making sure that they felt included. It wasn't just, oh, well, Ash is just doing this because she's nice. No, Ash is doing this to help educate you. She's doing this so that you can also see the other side of the coin. And being able to be open and honest with people and having the conversation because as we spoke on my show, I left a job recently.
Yeah, I was going to say, fast forward from that 6-year-old girl to now. Because I was, that fast forward to be in that conversation. I was like, wait a minute, I was just talking about clarity. What just happened?
So let's fast forward into this job situation. So pandemic happens and I'm in the middle of my first airline job. I was a flight attendant. Pandemic happens, I am furloughed. And so I go into marketing. So my online marketing, I'm doing everything online. Still basically working for small clients, doing what I can do because most of the city was shut down.
Sure.
Okay. Opportunity comes for another airline that's international. Well, that'd be really fun to go somewhere international and just go on someone else's dime. I'm like, sign me up. So I go do that. Unbeknownst to me, this company is having financial issues and is about to file bankruptcy. So I end up back in not a worse situation, but not a favorable situation I wanted to be in. And the opportunity came for me to become an event coordinator. Well, I already had a background with event planning, executing events, being an event coordinator for an event, a local event here. Yeah, local venue, jump into it. I have 2 interviews. I wow them at the interview. They seem very optimistic, very telling. It seemed like a great opportunity for me. The only major drawback, which I guess was probably a red flag initially, was the pay. I have a bachelor's degree in human communications as a science. I have work experience. I was in the military. I've worked the court systems. I've been in aviation. I've done retail. I've done food service. So I have a lot of my background. And what they offered me was not what they should have offered me. However, I really wanted to get back to Georgia. I wanted to get back near my family. So I was like, you know what? It may be a short, situation here just to get here. Let me just get into this situation and be able to work my way up, work my way back, my way to something better.
Yeah.
So I get to this job and it's an absolute, can I cuss? Can I say a curse word?
Yes, of course you can.
Okay. It's a shit show. It's a complete shit show.
Oh,
and
man.
I am just like, there's no communication between management, upper management, upper leadership. This train of whatever is just going on autopilot. They have someone in a position of power that is making the entire building miserable. And no one wants to move because they have this person setting this piece and they know so much work. So we don't want to upset them because maybe they'll leave. Maybe they'll try to sue us or something. Well, this person is costing you money. It's costing you staff, and it's costing a lot of aggravation. We had a client that came in and spent nothing short of maybe $145,000 on an event. And this person told them to take their money and shove it. And I'm like, how is this okay? How is this person able to just, I don't understand. And
this was the same company that was going under?
No, this company, they're eventually going to go under soon.
Okay.
If they keep this up, they're going to go under soon. That's in the works. That's in the works.
Yeah.
But it was absolutely just the most dreadful experience I've ever had in my natural born life. I've been working since I was 17 years old, and I've never had an experience like this ever. And I hope to not have anything remotely like this ever again. But it also was a reminder to me, Ash, you deserve better.
I love that.
Ash, you don't settle for less. Ash, you should do what the heck you want to do. So going back to my background with freelancing and going back to businesses and doing what I love, that's what we're on task with that now. So that's where things are currently. And as far as me freelancing with a lot of nonprofits, local, and also dealing with the small business owners that are here locally in Georgia, working with them, it's the most filling experience for me. And I feel like this is exactly what I should be doing, where I need to be.
Okay. So I'm going to jump right in here, and you're going to get coached whether you like it or not, Ash. I'm sorry, because it's so good. And if you don't mind, I could use you as an example for our listeners. Listeners, this is someone who has clarity. You hear me talk about the 3 C's of clarity, confidence, courage. The clarity that she had that says, you don't deserve this. And if I remember correctly, you lasted 4 months. It was probably 4 months. 4 months too long, but 4 months. And this is where, when you brought it up to me, I said, the only thing I can think of is, I'm so proud of you. I've seen people last years in this, and it becomes a gaslighting where they start gaslighting themselves, even like, oh, I should be happy. Oh, look at that. They just told me that I'm just lucky I get to have this job. And so we then lower the standard for ourselves. And that's where I said, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you. And I'm going back to 3 words you said earlier: humility, respect, and dignity. As you got clarity on that and you realize this is how I want to treat other people, you move it into that confidence piece. And confidence is all about our beliefs. Confidence is stepping into that, saying, I don't not only get to deserve to be treated better, I get to be treated with the things that I value of humility, respect, and dignity. And I'm not going to participate in any relationship, whether it's personal or professional. And then the courage piece is about taking action. When you said you resigned, I was like, I'm so proud of you. I mean, that's the way we take a stand, And I said, well, how'd you do that? And I remember you telling me how you did it. So I guess I want to ask you to share that with the listeners. How did you take your stand and step away from that space?
Well, sometimes it's good to listen to feedback, especially from other people. And so it was just a whole bunch of stuff that was happening. So that Friday, I saw one of my coworkers saw me. I just got back to work. We had an erratic schedule. So the schedule was just crazy, to where I was off Monday and Tuesday of that week, and I was to come back in for Wednesday. So Wednesday
Okay, so
I
you
came
had
back
a
in.
very erratic schedule, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
very erratic schedule. It was just
Okay.
it was just weird, and it didn't make logical sense.
Gotcha.
So I was off that Monday, Tuesday. I came in that Wednesday, and that person was just doing things to make me into an example for everyone else, publicly making. We had a weekly Teams meeting where it was
Yeah.
maybe 70 people in the company, and this person is making an example out of me, making me look stupid, making me look incompetent on this call, and I'm biting the hell out of my tongue because I'm like, I don't want to react because they're doing that to get a reaction out of me. They're
Right.
doing that to try to
Then
get
they
me
can
to
point
react.
at your reaction, or they can point at your anger, and they can say
Mhm.
they're the dysfunctional one, but they're sitting
There
there
we
needling
go.
you and gaslighting you. I get it.
Right. Right. So I don't even remember this, but a coworker said that she came to me that Friday. This happened Wednesday. She came to me that Friday. She's like, "Are you okay, Ash?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." She's like, "No." On Wednesday, after that call, after that Teams call, she said, "I saw you in the lobby area pacing back and forth." I was like, "You saw me pacing back and forth?" She's like, "Yeah, I saw you pacing back and forth. And I came up to you and I called to you and you didn't respond." And I was like, "Really?" You came up to me. And this is a person that has no reason to lie, has nothing to gain from me, flying off the cuckoo's nest or whatever. So I knew in that moment that it was starting to mess with my mental health. And that was a point where I'm like, no, I'm going to take charge of this situation because we've seen it all the time. We've seen it on Snapped. There's a whole television show about when people snap. And I did not want it to get to that place to where I end up in the back of somebody's squad car.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not good.
Yep.
That's not a good situation. So I prayed over it that night. I thought over it that weekend. Well, technically, I'd been drafting my resignation for weeks.
Good. Good. Again, I'm very proud of you. Keep going.
I'd been drafting it for weeks.
Yeah.
And that Monday, I said, I'm going to go in and I'm going to turn in my paperwork. And initially, I was going to give them a 2 weeks notice because that's what I've used to do. That's what I've done all before. But I said, part of me got in there and I had built up such an anxiety of being there. Like it had just started to make my chest heavy. I'm starting to get jittery and nervous. I said, no, I can't deal another 2 weeks with this psychopath. Are you crazy? Yeah. So I changed the wording in there. I said, today, effective today. I'm done.
Good.
I am done.
Good.
And I walked out of there with respect. I didn't call names. I didn't say anything to anybody. I went out with security and I was good to go. And I tell you, Heather, that was the biggest load off of my back. As soon as it happened, I walked out there. I said, I am free. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus.
Yes. 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 Well, let me go back to this. Oh, I love it. Let me go back to this idea that when we don't live out our clarity or our personal values, once it comes to us, like, I don't deserve to be treated this way.
Yeah.
Once we live that out and we start putting action steps to that, we become more and more congruent. What is the opposite that happens? And this is where I want to go down this path too, of like, what were some of the flags and some of the signs? This woman saying, I was talking to you. Well, you were beginning the process of disassociating, right? You're trying to figure out how to stay there and play the game, but realizing you're going to lose and you're not being set up to win. So you have only two options: to turn on yourself or turn and get out, which feels like a catch-22. But that's what marginalization and discrimination does to us. It makes you say, I either have to abandon myself or I have to leave the group because they're not going to let me stay associated and connected to myself. Does that resonate?
No. Oh, absolutely. You hit it spot on. That's exactly what was happening. And when you get to the place of like me, I've had mental health issues throughout the years. We talked about, did I tell you about my mom and that whole situation with the Army? Okay, we haven't gone down that street. Okay. Grab your Kleenex, people. In 2013, I went off to join the Army, and I went off for basic training December 30th, 2013, and December 31st, my mom passed away.
Oh.
And I had like a nervous breakdown there at training. It was just, it was a really just terrible terrible time for me. And so when I got back, I didn't finish training. When I got back, a friend of mine said, hey, why don't you start another podcast show? I'd produced for a couple of people in the past, and I really didn't want to put the work into doing that again. And I was like, she's like, it'll get your mind off of things. Mm-hmm. Maybe you can start something else. I said, I don't know. So she told me about this app called Spreaker. And she said, it's an app that you can download on your phone. It'll be fun. It'll be good for you. I was like, I don't know. I'll just do it anyway, just to get her to shut up, right? So I do it.
I like this friend. She sounds amazing.
Like, she's like, yeah, go ahead. I'm like, yeah, whatever. So I start the app, and honestly, probably the first 100 episodes, pretty random, crying, sharing of emotions. It's probably like an audio diary, essentially. Probably the first 100, the first 100 episodes is it's like an audio diary of me just talking about my feelings, talking about my mom, talking about the situation. And I got an email from them one day, and they was like, hey, would you like your podcast to be featured on iHeartRadio? And I'm like, this podcast that I don't have a theme, I don't have a purpose. I'm probably crying and blubbering over. Yeah, they're going to put it on iHeartRadio. Sure. So I go ahead and I put it in just for kicks and giggles. I'm like, whatever, put it in. I forget about it. Again, not doing the show on a regular basis. Don't have a schedule. Don't have a plan. About a year later, they sent me an email and they're like, hey, congratulations. Your podcast is now available on iHeartRadio. And I'm like, oh, this show that has nothing to do with anything. Oh my gosh. So I started to go back into my wheelhouse. I was like, okay, I got to make this could be profitable. This could be really good stuff for me to get into. So I started to interview a lot of local businesses that I knew and people that I knew that had purpose or maybe had an event coming up. And it started to grow from that. And so 1,800 episodes later, we're still here. So we're still
congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I think what I was drawn to you, well, not only to the fact that you're willing to just jump in and say and ask me questions about a sensitive topic, but I think what I was so drawn to is I could sense your resiliency. Like I said, it didn't break you. It made you. And as we were talking a little earlier before the show, all of us have had some degree of being left out or pushed out. And mine wasn't necessarily around race, but mine was definitely around gender. Growing up in a very conservative circle where women were literally not allowed to be leaders. And it was said, women cannot lead. But if you have this internal sense of leadership from a young age, I mean, I was ASB president, I was a captain of my team. I was like, this is incongruent for me. Marginalization does that. It's a form of gaslighting because it tells you this isn't who you really are. We're going to tell you who you are.
Yeah.
If you fit into the mold, it works for you. If you don't fit into the mold, it works against you. But I would even go a little further in saying, do we really want people to fit into the mold? I think it's a dysfunctional kind of environment. Or do we want people to feel like they are free to develop and be who they are based on their inner wisdom and based on their inner giftedness and really going after the life you're made for, the title of my book? Or do we really want to try and control people, make them fit in? And if they don't, we marginalize them and tell them that they're not working, or worse, in your case, humiliate and point fingers. That's how we make people start having to choose between themselves and the community or the group. And it hurts the group. But why I keep saying, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud it was only 4 months. But I think too, it's showing a level of health with you and personal self-awareness. And I guess that's where I want to kind of go down this path. What were some of the signs that showed you were being forced to choose to either turn on yourself and play the game, or whether you needed to leave and stay true to yourself? What were some of the signs that were showing?
A lot of the signs that I was seeing in that position was my voice was not being heard. So I would make suggestions about things, like they would ask, hey, what are some of the events that, maybe we should host here at this event? And I would live a list literally of maybe 20 different events that have never been to Georgia that I know about personally, or I know someone who is leading an event. And like, it was never taken into consideration. Well, then why did you ask me? If you're not going to take at least a look at that and say, hey, maybe we should try this or try that. Why is it, I don't understand that. A big problem with this job was there was no training. So everyone does things differently. I get that. And we all can have our own different styles, but there was not like a hard cover training manual. Like they had a binder which told you everything about being an event coordinator, everything about doing that thing. But the day-to-day of it and what was expected was never solidified. So you have a lot of people that there's a high turnaround, I'm hearing, as time was going on, there was a high turnaround because people could not deal with no structure. You've got one person that's heading everything and they want everything done their way and they want it done this way and this is how they want to do it right. But if I can get the same result using less time and still making sure that the client's happy, why is that an issue?
Yeah.
Why is that a problem?
Right.
But it's just, it was, there were definitely signs there, but I didn't want to just write it off as, oh, well, I'm not being taken seriously. Oh my gosh, this is not this. But at the same token, I was taking notes. I was taking notes the whole time and different things. I made sure to put notes on different things. And something interesting happened. So when I started this job, it was in December of last year. And I started the first week in December. So we were on 2 weeks and then we were off for 2 more. So the first 2 weeks, it was pretty much just like getting the lay of the land and kind of figuring things out. Well, I had 2 weeks off. Everybody's going on vacation and stuff and this and that. Well, December 31st is when my mom passed. So that's always like a memory for me as far as like going through holidays and stuff. Well, also now December 31st passed, my grandmother passes on the same day.
Oh my gosh.
So I was just dealing with a lot of angst. And I think when I came back to the job, I had partially shut down.
That's another sign.
Shut down because it was, it's not something everybody's talking about how great their vacation was and everything was wonderful. And I was like, yeah, I got another sob story. This is great. So I think that to an extent I did somewhat shut down. But that didn't give them the right, that at that point in time, you pull the person to the side. Hey, what's going on? What's the issue? What's this? They're going on as things are just fine when clearly they're not.
Right.
And it got to a point where one of the other people berated me in front of the director and was like, well, you're not doing this right. You're not doing that right. Stop and talk to me as if I'm a person. The yelling, the screaming, the berating. Some people are just on a power trip. And I'm just not here for it.
No.
I've been living life long enough. I got degrees. I got certifications. I have experience. I don't have to take this crap from you or anybody else.
Exactly. Right. Nobody deserves to be a scapegoat, period, much less publicly.
Say it.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm going to say it again. I think I've said it 5 times in this show, but I can't help it. I'm so proud of you, Ash, of getting out of there.
Thank you, Heather.
And choosing you because you are so worth it. And this is why I wanted to have this conversation with you. For all our listeners, if you're experiencing anything that's making you feel like you're not getting heard, that you're getting pushed out, that you're getting minimized or even horrifically humiliated in front of people, you get to draw a line in the sand. And I loved how Ash started out the conversation of those 3 values. I wrote them down because I thought, oh, there we go. There we go. Humility, respect, and dignity. And if you're willing to commit to treating other people that way, that's only 50% of the equation. The other 50% is you get to be treated that way. And if they're not willing to participate in that, you get to just completely walk away and say, this is not ever going to be a fit for me. And I will not let myself get gaslight. This is all I deserve. And the more of us who can walk away from these environments, that's how we actually do take a stand.
That's how change happens.
That's how change happens. Exactly. So I want to ask this question. How has this experience made you? I know you're kind of fresh out of it, but as you're getting your clarity around the human being that you're choosing to be and, hard situations make us, as you've already learned. And no one writes books about the people who didn't rise and have resiliency. The books that are written about these amazing characters throughout our history are written about people who have chosen to rise in spite of some of their circumstances. So I just want to ask that question. How has this made you?
Yeah, I think it's definitely shown me that I am a lot stronger than what I even thought. As you're going through things with COVID and everything is changing with business and how things are done, I think that I had some doubt in myself. I definitely did. And this has definitely been a boost to my confidence, just me knowing that I'm a boss chick. Like I can really take over the world if I wanted to.
Yes.
And I think that it's just shown me like this has been a stronger experience for me to go through. I didn't love the idea of going through this because that's not what you plan when you're trying to go to work and take care of your business and stuff. But I am glad that I made it through. I'm glad I didn't succumb to the abuse and to the negativity. Because it could have easily been, we've seen, like I said, we've seen those TV shows. People snap every day. And in different ways. And for that woman to come up to me and tell me that she saw me pacing and she called out to me and I had checked out.
Yeah.
That was a red flag. That was the biggest flag of all.
Yeah.
And I said, I can't allow myself to be in this situation because I don't know if I'm a danger to myself or much less anybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I'm not willing to pay the cost of that. I get to hang on to me, and I think that's encouragement I want to give our listeners. You get to belong to you. You get to hang on to you. And if anyone is pulling you away from your sense of self, none of that is ever worth it, ever.
No.
Doesn't matter how much you're getting paid. Doesn't matter how much you feel lucky to have that position or that job. And I would just encourage everyone to really let yourself see what's going on and be your best friend in this. Because if you are committed to values like humility, dignity, respect, as Ash has just talked about, give yourself the permission to be treated those ways as well, because that's really what the whole essence of emotional intelligence. We talk a lot about EQ and how important it is in the workplace and how much it is important in our personal lives. It's this idea of understanding what you feel and what the other person feels. It's a 50-50 relationship. And as you were willing to give it out and you weren't getting it in return, and worse, you were getting, what's the antithesis of it? Humiliation, disparagement, diminishment. I mean, those are horrific things to do to a human being. To tear them down. And too many times we live in it and we make excuses for it for too long. And this is where I see it really wear down the soul of a human being. And anyone who's out there experiencing, I just want to say, you're worth it to step away. And every time I have stepped away from any level of marginalization for myself personally, you're right. It's not fun. It's not something we go, yay, throw a party over. We have to recover from it, right?
You do.
But going a little further down the road, I see how it really makes me into a kinder, more respectful human being. And I think I never want anyone to feel like I had to feel. Yeah. How do I get to step into that space and always reach across the divide and say, where am I building a bridge? And who's building the bridges with me? Who are tearing it down? I think as I'm moving more and more spaces of leadership, I'm asking that question of who's building these bridges and who's either aggressively tearing it down or worse, passively. I've watched some organizations say, well, we're working on it. No, I'm sorry. 20 years of working on something is not achieving anything.
That's not.
You don't get to keep saying that you're working on it. You're not getting results. You're not getting the attention it needs. And you're making excuses for why an organization continues to marginalize anyone based on race or gender.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. It's crazy because, as you're talking, and I'm thinking there were other red flags for me in this particular position. And one of the major ones was seeing how this person was treating other people. And that was I'm like, okay, there's a way to tell someone, there's a way to correct someone respectfully if they're wrong. If we're wrong, hey, I'm not above being corrected. I take that as criticism, but the way that this person was talking to other people, I could see, I was like, oh, well, why is she saying it like this? Or why are they saying it like that? Huh. And so when it started to happen to me, I was like, oh, this is even worse than hearing someone go through it. This is not fun at all.
Yeah.
But that's what upper management told me. So I spoke with upper management at some point about the situation, about this person, and they were fully aware. They're fully aware
and
fully
passively allowing it.
Passively allowing it. And and she actually said that. She's like, oh, Ash, we're working on it. Yeah, I'm telling them all the things that's happening, all the way this person is completely just belittling me and all of my coworkers. And they're like, oh, we're working on it. We've known about it for years now, and we're working on it. We're really working on it. You're working on it, but she's shooing people away.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That I have learned in my work with organizations and groups, I no longer tolerate that. I see that as a passive excuse to allow poor behavior and dysfunctional, toxic environments that are hurting everybody else, but somehow protecting, the bully, right? Protecting the person who's bullying everybody else. And then we create this fear-based leadership, or I don't even like to use the word leadership with it, a fear-based,
power trip.
Yeah. Power trip, a fear-based influence, and creates more and more fear and that's contagious. So
it is.
I just love that. I love that you're talking about it, and man, I'm just rooting for you and cheering you on, because what I've seen, Ash, is these people who make a stand by leaving and saying, I get to count, and I get to be treated with humility and dignity and respect, because that's what I'm willing to give. I have seen their lives just shift and open up, but it's almost like we have to learn to stand up for ourselves. And I guess that's what I want to tell our listeners. I think the longer I work with people, everybody has an opportunity where they're going to dismiss poor behavior being treated toward them, make excuses for it, avoid it, try and figure out how to live with it. I want to say that is never going to work. Never. Learning how to stand up for what you value and how you're treated is the best gift you can give that organization. 9 times out of 10, they're not going to respond, because that's what it's become a toxic environment, but you're saying it for you, and you're allowing yourself to take the stand for you, and you're allowing yourself to step into that space because you're worth it. And that's what I want to tell my listeners. You're worth it. You're worth it. And you get to give it, and you get to receive it. And I'm really, really careful of saying it's a two-way street, because if we're constantly demanding it, that's where we move into kind of narcissistic entitlement of like, I demand to be treated this way. I'm like, if you ain't giving it, you don't get to give it. Get it, receive.
Exactly.
Right? So learning how to hold that beautiful tension of saying, I'm willing to invest in humanity, and I'm asking for the same courtesy to me.
Absolutely.
Okay. Absolutely. So as we wrap up, this has been so much fun. Ash, thanks for your transparency and all this. And
no problem.
I love
that I'm talking about this with anybody, It feels
it?
It is. I don't talk about this stuff because, like I said, I keep everything pretty light and fun with the show, but it's also nice to kind of relate to other people, and the more that you share your story and the more that you talk about it, you're not alone. So anyone out there that's listening, you are absolutely not alone, and keep pushing forward. It's not going to be easy.
Yep. That's beautiful. And where can they find you, Ash?
They can find me on ashsaidit.com. That is ASHSAIDIT.com. I am also One Love Ash across social media, and Ash Said It. If you just search Ash Said It, you'll see me.
Okay? I love it. I love it. All right, I'm going to wrap up with this question. This is like ending question I love to ask, because I've worked with people all different spaces and places. I'm always curious. What do you do? What's your morning rituals? What do you do when you start your day?
I like to meditate. So I have this app called the Calm app. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
Oh yeah, I love the Calm app.
Yes, I will listen to my daily J. I'll get that in, my daily meditation. That's the first thing. It almost like sets the tone for the day.
Right.
Get started with that. Daily J, getting that in there, getting that wisdom, that motivation going. And it kind of gets, how they say, like, you're supposed to like get up early and exercise and get the blood flowing. This kind of gets like your whole body flowing. And having all those positive juices get in there. Shout out to the Calm app. I love it.
Oh yeah. I love it. I actually woke up doing that today. It was one of those days where I'm like, man, I'm having a hard time getting out of bed. So I laid there, listened to about 3 different meditations till I can like crawl out of bed. But I love your thought as holistic beings, mind, body, heart, spirit, how we care for whichever part is kind of tired is really important, because that's what moves us into our space that day. And listening to yourself allows you to be refueled for what you need for that day. And I'm thinking even just this morning, I'm like, I'm glad I took a little extra time for that mind and spirit and heart connection. I didn't get up and go dashing out there and go on a run. My body felt too tired. And I thought, I'm glad I listened to that, because the day that I had needed that refueling with different things that came at me. And I was able to still get out there and take a walk and enjoy that. But it was still like later in the day that it got my body flowing. So I love that. And that's why I love asking that question. How we start our day really makes all the difference in how we listen to what we need. Well, Ash, it's been so fun having you. Thanks for coming on my show, and thanks for just sharing your heart. I feel honored and privileged that you shared it with me and share it with our listeners. And
absolutely. Thank you so much. And I appreciate you for coming on my show.
Oh, yeah. Good. Yeah. Well, perfect. We'll get that out to our listeners too, so you can hear where I was pleasantly surprised when I got asked a question that was off script. It's like, wow, she just went straight there. I'm sitting there just like waxing eloquently about clarity, confidence, and courage. And all of a sudden I get asked about discrimination. All right. Take care, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks for joining us. We had such a great time today. And obviously, we are all stepping into this life that we're made for. But isn't it nice to have a little bit of support along the way? If you want to find out more about the life that you're made for, come find me at heatherpenny.com. Go ahead and subscribe. Give us a review. That really helps us out and helps spread the word. You get to step into the life that you're made for. Cheering you on.